Contingency log number 60, codename King of Monsters. On 1954, just off the coast of Bikini Atoll, the atomic bomb was dropped. The destructive force of this explosion was far beyond anything humanity had ever achieved before. 15 megatons of explosive force focused on a single point, creating a mushroom cloud so large it reached up to the heavens and shook the very earth beneath it. As the men who stood at a safe distance watched in awe over the destructive force they had created, they were oblivious to the fact that they were creating something far more powerful. However, this time they would not have any control over it. Though it would not be them who suffered the consequences of these actions. Off the coast of Tokyo Bay, a monster unlike anything ever seen before would emerge. A creature forged not just from nightmares, but birthed from the radiation of the atomic bomb. Borrowing from the kanji from the Japanese names for gorilla and whale, this monster would be dubbed Gojira, or Godzilla if you're from the West. I will be going with Gojira for the sake of this contingency, not just out of respect for the original film. But this is not the only contingency on my list for this monster, so I'll need a means to make the video title distinct from one another. Standing 60 meters tall, Gojira dwarfed most of the buildings of Japan, stomping through cities with nothing that could so much as stand in its way. That, along with his iconic atomic breath, leaving behind nothing but destruction in his wake. This rampage, however, while the first time Japan would face such a creature, was not the first time they'd experienced such carnage, as only a few years prior to this, they had suffered the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima at the end of World War II. That day likely still haunting the nightmares of those who survived it, Japan had barely enough time to rebuild, let alone attempt to move past that day. So for this to happen, a reminder of something never forgotten. I cannot imagine what could have gone through their minds that day. Not just the grief felt, but wondering of what they had done to have deserved such a punishment. They attempted to put up a fight, scrounging what military might they could muster. Tanks, jets, even a giant electric fence. Nothing could stop it. More than a force of nature, there was nothing man had at their disposal that could stop it. Or at least, that is what they believed. One man did have something. A weapon called the oxygen destroyer. It had the potential to surpass that of the atomic bomb. And it was this very weapon that would be Gojira's end. Fortunately for its creator, the knowledge of how to build such a thing died along with him. A sacrifice done not just to stop this threat, but to prevent any future ones, or at least that was his hope. While the original Gojira was destroyed that day, another would appear sometime later. Something this species of kaiju has managed to do on several occasions. Needless to say, he is not something you can keep down easily. When creating a contingency for Gojira, I am left with a decision to make. Gojira is a creature born of destruction, never once having asked to exist. With skin similar to that of a radiation burn victim, it's likely his every waking moment is nothing but pain. Would ending this existence be a mercy? I can only wonder. Unlike the Japan of 70 years ago, technology today has advanced to a point where this Gojira could be handled effectively, starting with a weakness that seems to be consistent with him, that being sub-zero temperature. Now, some later versions of Gojira, who are far more powerful, have shown more resistance to it. But much like a nuclear reactor, should you cool it enough, it'll eventually stop. It would require something much larger than a handheld freeze gun. With any luck, I can modify the laser of the watchtower into a freeze ray. Should I manage to encase him in ice, I'll have proper storage prepared in an Arctic tundra. With any luck, that'll be the end of it. I know some may think I should get rid of him if given the chance, but I cannot simply strap him to a rocket and launch him into space. Well, technically I could. But launching big green irradiated monsters into space seems to have a way of coming back around at some point. Should the freeze ray not work, I can turn to Aquaman for some aid, as he has a few sea monsters under his own control that may be capable of giving Gojira a run for his money. You know, Despite everything I've faced in my life, I still have to admit that the ocean depths can be very terrifying. Finally, should I need to make this a more upfront confrontation, I do have something I've tried before. A mech built with the aid of several other heroes. While it didn't work out as well with a different Godzilla, I am sure that it could handle the original Gojira. However, this time it'll also have the addition of an engine that can absorb excess radiation coming off of Gojira for a boost of power. Actually, maybe I shouldn't stop at a single mech, not just as backups, in case a battle with Gojira proves more difficult than anticipated. But looking at my list of contingencies, I'm gonna need them. If you also have a character you wish for me to cover, or just want to support this channel, I'll have a link to my Ko-fi page. There will also be a Google Doc with the list of characters who have ever been done or already commissioned by others.